Hey everybody. Ow. Let's try that again. Hey everybody, John with Owl, and today I want to introduce a brand new product from Owl that came about because I was camping with my son and we had some nice bikes and we had gone mountain biking, and then we came back to the campsite and wanted to go grab some lunch, didn't want to have our mountain bikes kind of just out there for everybody to take, and I thought, hey, I wish there was a lock on this vehicle that was permanent, that I could just not dig out of a bag and not pull out of a box and just loop it around my bikes and hook it back up. So I know from other larger RVs, fifth wheels and so on that I've used in the past that they have these things that are built-in cable locks. This is called Toy Lock. It's from a company called Lippert. They make a ton of RV parts. Yellow is not my favorite color, but good thing is you can't really see it. And what we did is we designed these brackets. Let me grab another one. 1 second. So we designed these brackets to mount to the Toy Lock. And the cool thing about these, if you've got one of the VS30 vans, which is 2019 and newer, and you have the factory hitch, you've got 2 bolt holes. Now I've got our hitch step, beautiful hitch step by the way, installed on this brand new Revel, and we're gonna mount to the same holes. Now you don't have to have an Owl hitch step because these holes are resident in your vehicle regardless of whether or not you have the hitch step, although again, great hitch step, you should have it. So this is a bracket that actually mounts. If you mount the bracket, you see these are mirror images of each other. The brackets are mirror images, and the reason we did that is that many vehicles like Revels have waste tube holders right here, and they're easily removed, and I prefer to have the lock on the passenger side because what happens is you typically park stuff on this side of your campsite, you got your slider door open and your campsite's usually on this side. It's nicer to have the bikes on the campsite side locked up, or scooters or whatever you want to lock up. And so for me, I prefer to mount mine on this side of the vehicle. But if you do not want to remove that tube, or you have a different type of RV build or adventure van build that has tanks in the way or whatever it is, we have the mirror image which would allow you to mount the lock on this side of your hitch step. And it's really the same exact instructions for mounting both. It's just the direction of the Toy Lock. The other cool thing, it has breakaway aluminum nuts, and you'll see that in a second when I go through the installation of the bracket to the Toy Lock, but that's just another added layer of security. You know, again, anyone with tools can get what they want, but it's nice to make it as difficult as possible. Installing this is dead simple. Now, if you have a hitch step, you just remove these 2 bolts and install it in the same exact spot. And if you do not have a hitch step, then you use the supplied bolts with the kit to mount this right there. So let's go ahead and install it and show you how it works. Installing the Toy Lock is incredibly simple. So as I mentioned before, we have our right and left side brackets. So you have to decide which side of the van you want to have your Toy Lock on. And it's got these really cool breakaway nuts. So the way this works is it's got a little cone-shaped bottom, and then it's got the part that you turn with a wrench, and this is aluminum, and this snaps off. And the whole point of this is that once the Toy Lock is secured to your Owl bracket, it's unable to be removed. So that's kind of a nice little touch there. Again, if a thief is motivated and has tools, they'll always get what they want, but the main thing here is to make it very difficult for folks to get your items that you want to lock up. So when you've got your brackets, once you decide, you can see how these line up with the holes on the unit. And so if you're installing the bracket on the kind of yellow side, then it is going to install on the passenger side of the vehicle as you face the rear of the vehicle. And if you install it on the opposite side, so that the black portion of the lock or the yellow side is down, that's for the driver's side. So we're gonna install ours on the passenger side. You wanna make sure that there's good clearance before you choose which side bracket you want to install. You can, and I probably should have said, to install these bolts prior to putting the bracket on. Just makes life a little bit easier, but you can just kind of knock them past the plastic if you have to. So you've got these bolts. You simply run these things through. It doesn't really matter what direction you run them. So you run the bolts through, they're sticking out the bottom, and you need a 7/16 and a 9/16, and the way this works, really, really simple. So you place that on, and then you place these breakaway nuts so that they are cone side down, and then they'll hit some resistance once they hit that Loctite, and then that's when you get your wrench and you're going to tighten this down while holding the other side, which I am seemingly unable to do. Seems like the easier the job, the more trouble I have with it. It's getting tighter and tighter. And there you go. So now that has broken away, and this is not removable. So now we're going to stick the other bolt in. And you want to make sure you have both bolts in before you break this off, because you want to make sure that the holes are lined up. Let's put the other breakaway nut on there. It's amazing how it gets warm just from tightening it on that Loctite. So now you have the bracket permanently secured to this bracket that is going to mount to the side of your hitch step. Now let's go check that out. For the installation of this, you will need a 7/32 Allen and a 9/16 socket. And the first thing you do is just, if you have the hitch step on there, you undo this first. If you don't have a hitch step on there, then you just simply install the bolts. It's quite simple. It's one of those mods that I love. It's like a 15-minute install, adds a ton of functionality to the van. I've never seen anyone doing anything like this. So for all you folks with toys, kayaks, bikes, and the other thing, you can also secure it. Granted, opening the door can become a little bit of an issue, but if you're parking and you want to run it through a B2 through your bikes on the back door, you absolutely can. What is the cable length on this? Of course, I covered up the feet. 4.75 meters. So that's, you know, at 3 feet per meter, just under 15 feet. Did that in my head, folks. All right. So now you retain the hardware that you had. You're going to take the bolt, if I can use my fingers. And it's a little bit tight getting past the plastic. You just got to kind of shove it in there. One more thing I want to talk about. I had actually forgotten to remove this far back bracket that held the sanitation tube to the Revel. And anytime you're removing the sanitation tube, which again, super easy, but these are self-tappers, which means that when they put them in, they're not painting the unibody around where these go in. So it's an opportunity for corrosion. So anytime you take any screws or bolts out of your unibody or any metal in that respect, you're going to want to hit those spots with some rust preventative. Again, I talk about it all the time. I'm not sponsored, but I should be. Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer. It dries super fast. You can see these holes right here. And then there's another one right here. And then we should have more. Where did those come out? Okay, so they put the screws back in, but I'm going to take these out and paint all that. So here we're going to hit this. And then we'll take those out and hit that as well. We wanted to upgrade it even more. So we are including, in addition to the tamper resistant bolts here, when you bolt it to your hitch step or to just your hitch receiver, we are now including this bolt, which is a T45 tamper resistant Torx. We're going to include the tool with the product. So same price, we're upgrading it. It's actually shockingly expensive bolt and tool. So that's why we include one tamper resistant, because that's enough, and the other one is a standard Allen. Yeah, so when you mount these, right in front of me the whole time, when you mount these, you're going to need one of these. You should have a Torx set for your Sprinter anyway, but there's a special one that has a hole in it. Anyway, like I said, we're including the tool, but just wanted to show you that. Then when you mount it, I'm putting the tamper resistant towards the far back of the vehicle, so if anyone is snooping around and looks, they see that it's already got a tamper resistant bolt and they move on. Now that we've got our holes painted, we're ready to install this. We've got the two bolts sticking out of it. It's going to install, so the toy lock is facing up, and it just rests right there until you get the washer and the nut on. And then we provide longer bolts with your kit. You're going to want to use those and not reinstall the ones that came with your hitch step, because they're too short for the nylock to engage. So it's as simple as putting those bolts in, grabbing your Allen, and tightening stuff up, and you'll see how it kind of levels out once you get it tight. You want to make this pretty tight. there you go. So now the product is installed, and to show you how this thing functions, it's really, really cool. So you've got this steel braided cable, which is going to put a nice amount of barrier between you and anybody that wants to grab your stuff. And then it comes with this padlock. And the way this works is you undo the padlock, you would take this out. And again, you see how much length there is. You have to get those little clicks to keep it from retracting. And then you can just see how much cable there is here. So you could actually go all the way around. If I turn you here, you can go all the way around here, way out here. I'm stretched almost clear to the front of the van. But keep in mind that you also want to be able to bring this back, because you stick this back through that hole. You need to bring this back because you stick this back through that hole, and then you put the padlock on the back side. And then what you do, you can pull this and you can retract it to be the desired length. And then when you're done, you undo the lock and you can let this all go back in, or you can actually leave the lock installed there. But that's pretty much it. It's nice and rugged, doesn't wobble at all. Let's take a look at it. Really minimalist behind the van. You don't even really notice it. Personally, I might hit this with some black, and then it comes with a yellow padlock. Purely aesthetics. It does make it more visible to folks. If you put the yellow padlock behind here, it's going to be less visible, but personally, I'm not a huge yellow fan, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm probably going to swap that out for just like a black lock, or maybe even blue. So this is our Hitch toy lock for Sprinter VS30 and newer, and I believe if you have an NCV3, you have the same setup as far as your factory hitch, but it does not have these rear holes. So I believe you can use it, but you might have to just drill these holes. It's not very hard. You would just simply place the bracket up against your hitch step and drill 2 holes, and then you can have that as well. Again, you do not have to have the owl hitch step, although it is highly recommended. And we have this for both sides. I think the bracket's over there, but you can put it on the driver's side or the passenger. These are available now on our website. I hope you get good use out of it like I do. All right, everybody, a little supplemental video to the toy lock, which has become really, really popular since we launched it. We wanted to upgrade it even more. So we are including, in addition to the tamper-resistant bolts here, when you bolt it to your hitch step or to just your hitch receiver, we are now including this bolt, which is a T45 tamper-resistant Torx. We're going to include the tool with the product, so same price. We're upgrading it. It's actually shockingly expensive bolt and tool, so that's why we include one tamper-resistant, because that's enough, and the other one is a standard Allen. Yeah, so when you mount these, one second. Right in front of me the whole time. When you mount these, you're going to need one of these. You should have a Torx set for your Sprinter anyway, but there's a special one that has a hole in it. Anyway, like I said, we're including the tool, but just wanted to show you that. Then when you mount it, I'm putting the tamper-resistant towards the far back of the vehicle, so if anyone is snooping around and looks, they see that it's already got a tamper-resistant bolt and they move on.